God is the God of all, not just those living in Western culture. And bringing the idea of reincarnation and karma from out of Eastern culture to Western culture, is God not speaking? Here is an additional idea by which to more deeply understand the creation. Yet, we deny God the capacity to speak to us from another quarter by our limiting all that we can know and think to only what is taught in the Bible. This fundamentally legalistic and theological practice of arguing about a truth such that if it cannot be found in the Bible, it cannot be true, is also a denial of the Father and the Son. This is accomplished by the reduction and confining of the divine mystery to only what is contained in a book, clearly of human origin, however inspired, and limited as well in time to the past. To rest our systems of understanding on a book is to deny the true glory of the creation, and to limit God to never being able to say anything more to us. That is, we make God incapable of new revelation. To look to a book instead of to the reality of life as it daily surrounds us is to deny the authentic presence of Christ in our lives, succumb to one of the temptations, the Antichrist spirit. Yes, many do assert a Christ presence in their lives, but only in the sense that it can be found first in a book, in the Bible. Christ is not to be allowed by these views to appear to us as he wishes, but must only appear to us as an error-prone and error-capable human beings choose to interpret the text. This is another form of hypocrisy. Many claim to believe in the divine mystery as the author of our existence, and at the same time limit that God to never being able to say anything new, or to never being capable of speaking to us from any other direction than from out of a book, which we should never forget must be constantly interpreted by human beings. This Antichrist spirit among those claiming to be Christian is also often of the same nature as the mob concerning which Christ said, "He among you who is without sin, let him cast the first stone." Finger-pointing and asserting that Christ will come at the end times and destroy human beings is not to be in touch at all with the creative works of the God of love. Here I do not have the time and space to deal with the confusion spread by these so-called Christians as to the true meaning and the deep symbolism of Revelations. That is dealt with elsewhere by others and mostly with great depth. And instead I here choose to work more carefully with a single idea, the idea of the Antichrist spirit, as appears in contemporary life, and as may or may not relate to the deeds and ideas of our shared public life, which we call politics, and which Christ referred to when he made that well-known but still not well understood distinction between the realm of Caesar and the realm of God. And it will help us as well to note in passing the work of the Russian philosopher Vladimir Soloviev. He wrote a significant book near the end of his life with the title War, Progress, and the End of History, 3 discussions, which included a short story of the Antichrist. Soloviev had unusual views on the relationship between thinking consciousness and experience, which are well worth investigating in their own right. Between thinking consciousness and spiritual experience, which are well worth investigating on their own right. For example, he considered individual human cognition to be capable of direct knowledge of the spirit behind all existence, and given that approach, we might pay some attention to his thinking as expressed in this story. Soloviev basically tells the tale of a charismatic individual who rises to political and cultural power in an imaginary state. He is very popular, and nearly everyone loves him, including all but a few religious leaders. But this is an oversimplification. Well, this is an oversimplification. We could say that this individual's main flaw of character is his egotism. He is not so much evil in a demonic sense, but rather evil in that he is more for himself and his own power than he is for anyone else. He wraps himself in the mantle of the good through his words, but in his actions he serves no one but his own egotism. This does not mean he is a dictator in the classical sense, ruling with an iron fist. On the contrary, he seems to accomplish a lot, as long as we don't notice the texture and quality of his rule, given that it is based in his love of his own self above all else. To return to the 2 letters of John, of the 3 that are in the New Testament, where the Antichrist spirit is mentioned. Clearly, John means to point out to us what can live in people that is anti or against the Spirit of Christ, against the spirit of sacrifice and love. In John 1:4-3, he calls it the Spirit of God. Christ is fully selfless, so much so that if we ask why Judas had to kiss him so that the soldiers could arrest him, we realize that it is because that when he and the disciples taught, it is clear only his most intimate disciples knew which single individual human being was the center, for all, under his influence, were capable of speaking and teaching. Christ is the paragon of egolessness or lack of any self-centeredness, and it would seem that Solovyov wished to express his view that the Antichrist spirit is not only in denial of the Father and the Son, but more in love with its own being than any other. There is no I and thou for this Antichrist spirit. There is only I. Let us at the same time not fail to appreciate that while Christ's life sets the bar high, he would not, as Charles Sheldon, the author of In His Steps, knew, put any task beyond human capacities. While few attain anywhere near to the full expression of this yoke of love through selfless self-sacrifice in any one life, many express the essence without any need to preach or to condemn others. So when we go about perceiving in modern culture the presence of this Antichrist spirit, we need to see it as everywhere, not just isolated in those individuals, groups, ideas, and processes we do not like because they are different. In point of fact, that very psychological process of judging and labeling others as wrong or evil because we do not like them is itself a form of the Antichrist spirit, denying as it does the core of what Christ taught about not judging in the Sermon on the Mount. It should be noted that these aspects of the letters of John bear a critical resemblance to our time in a peculiar way, because of his pointing out that it is the last hour. While he understands the existence of an Antichrist spirit, he can't quite see it in himself. He can't quite notice that his act of judging is itself of the Antichrist spirit.